Okay, so as you guys can see, it's not totally dark. It's actually like 6 or 5 or something. I don't even know. Had something to eat, decided to come back. So if you're asking, Kieran, do you wear the same clothes every day? Yeah, I do. But in this case, it's still the same day. Anyways, welcome back everyone to Close and Broke. My name is Kieran, and today we had a pretty interesting quick little session earlier. Didn't go our way. Now we're gonna hop into the 5-5 game and see if we can't run up a stack and see how we do. I was gonna leave home, and Raver Poker came up to me and said, hey, do you want to be an alternate on Max Pay Monday? There is even a remote chance that I get to play on the game. I think it makes sense for me to stay, or at least try to pass the time and see if I can get a seat, just because it's going to be fun and whatnot. So if you guys ever want to play with me, you guys know what to do already. The link at the top of the description, the Telegram, if you guys ever want to join the Splash Squads. Otherwise, 5-5 should be fun. We've been doing okay in this game. Hopefully we can go in and make some money. If not, you guys will see that. I'll see you guys in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. Today is an absolute monstrous session. There's a lot to go over. I can promise you guys in today's session, you won't want to click away, as there's a ton of massive pots going on here and a lot of really crazy unorthodox play. In this very first hand, Under the Gun decides to limp here for $5. The cutoff makes it $25 to go. I have a pretty good read on this opponent as being weak here. I looked down a King 3 of spades here from the button, a suited Broadway card. Why not? I go ahead and throw the $25 in. The small blind, the big blind, and the limper all make the call. We're going way too many ways to a flop. That comes 4-3-4. 2 hearts and a club. With the action checked over to the initial raiser, he decides to c-bet for $75. Only I decide to make the call here with my 2 pair. And we're going off to a turn card that comes a deuce of spades. Again, doesn't change very much the board texture. Our opponent checks it over to me. I think we have a pretty comfortable just check it back, and we're going off to a river card that comes a deuce of diamonds. At this point, my opponent decides to bomb here for $300. I don't know even where to start here. All of the draws that I can really consider brick, and I don't think my opponent's going to be isolating a hand like 5-6 very often. So that leaves us with a holding like ace-5 suited. And even then, this is kind of a pretty crazy board to just be going for value with the straight even. I don't know, it feels like an absolute airball to me. I end up making the hero call here, and you would not believe it. He's got pocket fives. Some way, I'm just going to tip my cap off. He got absolute max value for me. That's why we love this place. Moving on to our very second hand of the session here. The video is going on a little bit after I decide to make this raise. When I look down at King 8 of clubs here from the hijack, $25 is the price of poker. Both the button and the small blind oblige. We're going 3 ways off to a flop that is outstanding, significantly above par. Jack 8-3 with 2 clubs. I flop middle pair as well as the second nut flush draw. With the action checked over to me, I decided to go a little bit on the larger side here. A board that's not going to totally crush my range here all that often, but if I'm going to c-bet, I think this is a good c-bet is to go larger. I decided to make it $50 to go. Somehow both players make the call. We're looking for help, and it comes in the form of a 10 of clubs. We now improve to a flush, the second nut flush to be specific. And even better, when the action checks over to me, I think that we can go really, really, really crazy here. You guys know that I'm going to bluff. These guys probably know that I'm going to bluff. So why not have a value hand when we go big? I make it $210 to go. Action's down the small blind, and the sweet just gets sweeter as he decides to go all in for about $400, or I think $395, $400, somewhere in that ballpark. And now the action falls squarely on me. I decided it's a pretty easy call. I think second nuts are going to be sufficient. And we're going off to a river card that comes in 9 of diamonds. I immediately show my opponent mucks his hand. And just like that, we are coming back after that early loss. In this very next hand, there's a straddle on here for $10. Friend of the vlog, Sam, decides to open it up to $35 from late position. The action's on me in the big blind. I decide to make the call here with 8-6 of hearts, which is said to be Tom Dwan's favorite hand. The straddler makes a call as well, and we're going off to a flop that comes ace, queen, 6, rainbow. With the action checked over to the initial raiser, he decides to throw out a c-bet of $40. Oddly enough, there was a little voice in my head saying that if he bets anything more than 50, I'm out of here. Well, he bet less than 50. I have a backdoor draw, and maybe if I had an 8 or a 6 here, I can get a lot more money. I decide to make a little bit of a wishful call here, and the turn card comes a jack of diamonds. Now that we're heads up, seems like a little more trickier, especially when this brings a backdoor flush draw, and I have nothing here that is going to be in my ballpark. I decided to check it over to my opponent, and luckily for us, Sam ends up letting us see a free card, which he wishes he didn't. as it comes a 6 of spades. We now have what feels like the effective nuts. Of course, I can't discount my opponent from having a hand like aces, but I think queens and jacks are 100% of the time bets on the turn, as he wouldn't be blocking me for holding an ace. I decided to go big here. I bet $215 going over the size of the pot. What's really important is to balance yourself. Obviously, if I had a hand like 10-9 of diamonds or something wacky like that, or maybe if I had a hand like king jack of spades, I think I'd do the same thing. My opponent goes deep into the tank before eventually deciding on a fold. So unfortunate for us there, as we're not able to get more value. It seems like we've had a really tough time getting big value in close spots at this 5-5 game. Hopefully with time we'll be able to figure it out. In this next hand, the hijack decides to limp. I find myself in the cutoff with queen jack offsuit. I isolate to $50. The small blind calls and no one else does, and the flop comes jack, 7 deuce, 2 clubs and a heart. With the action checked over to me, we have a pretty mandatory c-bet here with top pair. Reasonable kicker, $40 to go. Snap call from our opponent. Usually indicative of a draw here or a marginal holding, as we've talked about in the past. The turn card comes at 10 of spades, with the action checked over to me. Last time we decided to bet in a spot like this, it was out of position and I had the exact same holding, and we ended up getting a call and then raised. Things are different here, as obviously I am in position, but I don't even think my hand's good enough to go for 3 streets of value. Seems like it sets up for a reasonable bluff catcher on the river or a 2 street value situation. Either way, I end up checking it back, and the river card comes the 8 of clubs, literally by far and away the worst card I could have possibly thought of. Our opponent decides to lead out here for $105. Really frustrating, but we're good enough now to make the fold here. I just can't think of a hand that my opponent has that we're somehow beating for value, and beyond that, there's a ton of hands that he's going to be betting here very easily for value that beat my hand. So I end up making the fold. We're going off to the next hand. Moving on here, the straddle is on in this hand. The cutoff makes it $35 to go. I find myself in the big blind with ace-king offsuit. Beautiful hand, and even better to 3-bet. $140 is the new price of poker, to which our opponent decides, all right, not a bad idea, and makes a call. The flop comes a measly 10-7-4 with 2 clubs. We do in fact have a club in our hand. Unfortunately, it's the king and not the ace, but doesn't change a whole lot here. I decided to throw out a c-bet here, a board that's not great for my holding here, and I think I'm making an error by betting so small. Sure, we can go either way with this, tit for tat, blah blah blah, tomato tomato, but I end up deciding to make it $90 to go. The cutoff makes a call, and we're going off to a turn card that comes at 10 of diamonds. Now this has gone from bad to worse. The top card pairing is definitely not good for my range and helps out my opponent quite a bit. I end up checking here, and my opponent decides to bet here for $240. In this instance, I decide to make the call here, considering we can still bluff on a club if it has to come down to that. And beyond that, I think our hand can still be good. We can still be up against a hand like ace X of clubs here. The river card comes at 3 of diamonds, changing nothing. I check it over to my opponent, and he pretty quickly decides to check it back. We show our hand, and unfortunately, he ends up showing pocket 8. So how much money have you guys lost with ace king? Because it just feels like way too much at this point. All right. Catching up with this next hand here, the straddle is on. The hijack makes it $30 to go. I'm in said straddle. I call with king 3 offsuit. We're going off to a flop that comes ace 10-4 with 2 hearts and a club. I do have the king of hearts if it ever needs to come down to it. The action ends up checking through though. The turn card comes as 6 of hearts. So we said if it comes down to it, seems like it's coming down to it. I decided to bet out here for $40. Our opponent pretty quickly makes a call. And the river card comes at jack of diamonds. Well, our hand cannot get any better to bluff at. We have the king of hearts. We're blocking the Broadway. This is just like an easy bluff. We make it $155 to go, looking to get all really weak holdings to fold. But our opponent just snap calls. Easy game. He shows ace 10 offsuit, so that's going to go ahead and win this hand here. And yeah, not looking good here. We will probably not be making the majors at this batting average so far.
A couple of really important things that I thought I would let you guys know briefly. If you guys are at all interested in seeing my life outside of poker, want to get a little more laid back environment, we've actually been making a podcast. You can find the podcast at every single place you'd find podcasts at. Apple Music, Spotify. But if you'd like to see the video version, it's actually on YouTube. The links for all of that will be in the description. It'll be titled The Close to Broke Podcast. So if you guys are interested, and I hope you guys would do me the favor and the solid by going over, subscribing, and liking on our very first episode. Otherwise, if you guys are interested in playing live cash games, at the bike they host, or specifically me, I'm hosting a private cash game or an organized cash game in the private room. It's called the Legends Room of Poker. If you guys are interested, it's 5-5-10 or 2-5-10. It's 500 to 2K max. The only way you can get in is by DMing me on Instagram at close to broke. Again, just send me over a DM if you guys are good for the game, fun to be around, a good environment. I'll be vlogging all of these sessions, of course, trying to make poker a little more fun. So yeah, let me know if you're interested. Otherwise, let's get back into today's episode.
The hijack makes it $20 to go. He's been a pretty snug player, hasn't been getting very much out of line at all pre-flop. I think I've seen him open 2 hands in the space of 3 hours. We looked down at ace-10 of hearts here in position on the cutoff. I'd usually 3-bet this hand, but specifically against an opponent this tight, I think it's reasonable to just make the call here, which I do. The small blind and the big blind also come along, and we're going off to a flop that is outstanding. 10 deuce 4 with 2 spades out there. There is a heart, so if for some reason we find ourselves behind, we have a behind plan, or a backup plan, I guess. That makes more sense. That's like way better version of that saying. Anyways, with the action checked over to me, I decided to go to bat, specifically to bet a bigger sizing. I make it $60 to go. Only the initial raiser makes the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes a king of spades. At this point, the action checked over to me. When it brings in that front door flush, I think I'm going to be a little more cautious here. I end up just checking it back. We're going off to the river that comes the king of clubs pairing the top card, making it less likely for our opponent to obviously have said card. A little worrisome when our opponent throws out a bet of $105, but as you guys said, I didn't check back the turn here to ever not call this river, especially not for a sizing this reasonable. I ended up making the call. He shows ace-jack offsuit with the jack of spades, so decided to turn his hand into a bluff, which I totally get. We end up taking that pot down. Happy to take it down. So here we go. Another fun one, as it's a double board bomb pot, the no-limit holdem variety. In this situation, there's $25 going pre-flop in the middle, blind, and we're all going to a flop with 2 hands, or 2 boards, I should say, rather. The flop on the top board comes 6-3-4 with 2 spades, and the bottom one comes 4-5 queen, 2 diamonds. It checks to me in late position, and I look down at my hand, and somehow this piece of absolute garbage is a monster. We have 2 pair on the top board and an open ender on the bottom board. What the? 6-3? We're putting money? Okay. $75 to go. Only the early position player makes a call. We're going off to a turn card that comes a king of diamonds on the top board and a jack of clubs on the bottom board. With the action on me now, I think it's important to start cranking up the price of poker, adding a ton to pressure here. I decided to bet $200, looking to get my opponent to fold obviously something better than 6 high on the other board. But our opponent snap calls here, and we're going off to a river card that comes a queen of diamonds on the top and the jack of spades on the bottom. With the action checked over to me, I just don't see a situation where betting here does very much. So I decided to just check it back. Our opponent shows ace queen. We show our 6-3 and we end up chopping that pot. Moving right along here, we're several hours into the session and just kind of fumbling and rumbling right around break even. In for 1,000, probably have like somewhere in the neighborhood of 900 to 1,100 in front of us. I decided to throw out a raise here from the hijack after I looked down at ace queen to $25. Small blind, big blind call. Flop is ace, jack, 10, rainbow. We flop ourselves top pair and a gutter ball to the nuts. At this point, the small blind throws out a little bit of a lead here for $40. A little bit annoying because I probably would have bet a little bigger if the action was on me, but we're never folding here, and I think raising here would be a little bit of a misplay, so I end up making the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes with 3 of hearts. This is now a full rainbow board texture, and the action checked over to me. I think it's mandatory that we go for a value bet here. We can get called by a ton of worse hands. I make it $100 to go. Our opponent pretty quickly obliges by making the call. The river card comes the king of clubs. We now end up here on the river with a nut straight with the action checked over to me. I think this is where I make an error. I think that my opponent maybe improves to 2 pair with a hand like king jack or king 10. But in reality, I just don't think my opponent is calling a massive bet here. I think if I do something really weird, like throwing out a small bet of like $10 can really confuse my opponent and maybe make him spaz out and raise. But I end up bombing it for $440. I just don't like it. I'm never getting called by worse here, it feels like. And I think this is my first really massive misplay of the day. Our opponent ends up folding. We let him off scot-free with a massive bet that didn't need to happen. This next one is an absolute doozy, as it is a bomb pot. Buckle up, guys. This one is interesting. We're going 6 ways off to a flop. Double board PLO bomb pot. Remember, guys, in PLO you have to use 2 hole cards, and for you to scoop, you've got to win both boards. $25 from each player, 6 ways off to a flop that comes 9 deuce deuce and 10 4 8. With the action checked over to me, we look down at our hand and we have a monster. We have ourselves top boat on the top board and an open-ended straight draw on the bottom board. This is a really, really good sign for many different reasons. Specifically by saying pot. I decided to bet $125 as I asked what the pot size is, and that's what the dealer says. Obviously this is wrong. The pot size is actually 150, but whatever. That's okay, I guess. I mean, the action player to my left decides to just make the call, leaving himself, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 or something like that remaining. And then our opponent, who's never played PLO before, decides to just jam. Jamming here from late position is scary. He doesn't know PLO rules, so usually people don't do that with just junk. You know, they have to have some equity. Either way, I decide that my hand is just obviously way too good to fold. Yeah, what am I kidding? I don't need to even slow roll you guys, right? I just snap call here. I snap put it all in. The shorty on our left decides to call all in for 250. We've got quite a pot brewing here. I immediately show my hand here. And let's watch the video to see a run out.
You got already.
I have a, you got one of them. Boat. I know you can have quads. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so I have the nut straight, or second nut straight on one of them.
Good on one board. Full house and straight. You would play this way on the other. Queen nine and straight. Oh, yeah.
You
queen high straight.
Well, I got scooped.
And
It's hard to get scooped on this.
wow. That's what I did. No. You win.
Well, as you guys see there, our opponent had something like queen 9x, I don't even know, but ended up rivering a one outer, was what I was told as somebody said they folded a queen. That's really frustrating, and just goes to show you that variance is real. Even when you're a massive favorite, you find a way to lose. Granted, it would have been hard to scoop. Unlucky for many reasons, but it's just a part of the game. If you're not able to roll with the punches, then you gotta do something that doesn't involve punching, or emotional punching at least. Alright, looking to bounce back. That one was really painful for many reasons, but early position decides to open here to $45. There's no straddle. It's just $5. So 9x. There's two callers in late position. The action's on me here in the small blind. I let down an ace queen of diamonds here. This is a pretty easy squeeze spot for me. There's like 150 some odd dollars for free in the middle. I decided to just throw in the jam here for 460 total. Big blind makes a call here. Everyone else folds. The small blind, or excuse me, the big blind does have less. He has 210. He shows pocket tens and we are off to the races. The flop here comes jack, deuce, king here. Not really anything great for us, but the turn card gives us hope as it comes to jack of diamonds. Royal flush draw is live and coming, and the river card comes. A queen of clubs. Okay. We ended up winning that pot against pocket tens here. Ended up getting lucky, obviously. Thankfully, we picked up some extra equity on the turn, and thankfully, we ended up hitting a queen on the river. Either way, moving along, happy to win that pot. Here we are in the latter half of the session with a very, very interesting hand to go over. There's a straddle on here to $10. I find myself in the hijack with queen, jack of clubs here. $30 to go. Straddle calls, and the flop gives us 4/5 of the way to a straight flush. Ace 10-9 with two clubs here. With the action checked over to me, we have a ton of equity, and we have a massive range advantage. I bet small, $25. Our opponent makes a call. The turn card comes at 3 of hearts. At this point, I think it's pretty important to start cranking up the pressure. My equity is diminishing, and it's important to get queen high, not to showdown, and just to hopefully get this pot ripped away from my opponent's hands. I make it $150 to go, to which my opponent obliges by calling, which we're not happy that he did that. We wanted him to fold. Either way, the river card comes, a jack of hearts. We improve to middle pair here, but annoying for many different reasons. Specifically, we just had too many out syndrome. He checks it over to me. I have a pretty easy check back here now. We have some showdown value. He tells me that he did get there, and he shows jack 8. Well, his get there is not as good as my get there, or got there. So we show our hand, and it is in fact good, obviously. Our kicker plays. Good for us. Moving on to the last hand of the session. I would be lying to you if I did not tell you that I have not played a hand, or at least not a meaningful one, for almost 2 hours. We've been super card dead, and I've done my very best to hold it together until this point. I'm card dead, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm frustrated, all of this culminating to the last hand. Early position limps, late position limps, the cutoff, which is a friend of the vlog, Sam, makes it $50 to go. Action folds to me in the big blind, and I look down at pocket fours. It's a pair, screw it. Let's get it in the middle. I just jammed my $390. Everyone folds except for the friend of the vlog who makes the call. He shows pocket queens, and the board comes out ace high. We do not improve, and that's going to do it for us. In for 1,000, out for you'll know very shortly.
Good. Just make sure. Yep. Good.
I'm on
Alright, so obviously just blasted off in the last hand. Oh, I am so upset. I just ran so bad the whole day, and I don't know. I didn't even lose anything in that game, which is the funny part. I lost 1,000, but whatever. I'm just annoyed. Every spot, every single spot, I just literally just every spot didn't get value in any of the big hands. I am so f***ing annoyed. It's like, one thing's for sure, I'm gonna get shredded whether I played good or bad, so that's not really what I'm worried about. Besides the last time, I was just kind of over it. I was just like double up or whatever, leave. I was just over it. I was just babying my stack forever, just like going around landmine after landmine. But anyways, I'm super over it. I've been here for like 10 hours today. I just want to go home. I'm upset, and I just want to not think about poker for a while. This game is so frustrating. It's just frustrating when you don't do anything bad. Like, you just play whatever and you just lose anyways. But either way, no reason to bore you guys or to bother you guys. So it is what it is. We're going to leave it to that. Hope you guys have a nice day. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode.